going on, listeners? Welcome to the latest episode of Rivercity 93, brought to you by Ruffneck Scarves, Icarus FC, and of course, for the culture. This is your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and is joining me as two guys that can wait almost 3 hours for the end of a Richmond Kickers games. It's Matt and Shanier. How are you guys doing today?
Doing fine. Finished watching the game at pretty much 11 o'clock at night on Saturday.
Sounds about right.
Interesting. And it's funny because the commentator was actually talking about how when the game started, the heat index was at like 110 degrees. And when the restart happened, it was like 75 degrees.
Trust me, me and Matt know about that heat index because we did a community service event that morning, and it was baking out there, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was a good time. I mean, not gonna lie, been at City Stadium later than that before. Actually, waiting out rain delays.
Yep, it seems like an every year thing for us.
Yeah, so this one wasn't that bad. I mean, the rain wasn't that bad. It was all the lightning that held us up more than anything else. So all of us that were there, us merry band of idiots who stuck around for hours upon hours. We were having a good time, and didn't really have to run for cover other than like a 5-minute period. So highly recommend it if you ever get the opportunity to just randomly hang around in City Stadium, drinking beers with friends. Good time.
Yeah, you had Luke's parents in Section O. Monty came down. Like, it was a who's of people that we would have never thought.
It's the place to be. We all know this.
Oh yeah.
So this game, I'm gonna ask you guys thoughts on it. We're gonna obviously go through the game, but I'm gonna get you guys thoughts on it. How do you guys think the Kickers played in this game from the onset? How do you guys think everything went?
So I think the biggest thing, if you look at the game, it looked really different than almost every other game because the Kickers were ball dominant. All year. How many times have we talked about? All right, possession's not everything, but man, would I like to have the ball a little bit more and everything like that. I think what was the final stat? Like over 60%, on the ball. This game, and every time you kind of looked up, all right, Kickers were on the ball. They were in the Fort Lauderdale defensive half. So very pleasant, change, from having to wonder if we're going to get a quick counter strike. Constantly wondering if is Akira going to be able to grab this one out of the air? Or, Jalen and Yvonne going to be able to head this one away, rinse and repeat over and over again. So on that level, a really different look from the group.
Yeah. Yeah, really, it felt different. I think I made a thing in my notes about like the Kickers are applying pressure and forcing turnovers, which is something that barely ever happens in the first 30 minutes of a half. Like, usually, like, you gotta wait to 60, 70 minutes. But from the onset, outside of the goal, the Kickers were on the front foot. And it was a positive sight to see because I wasn't doing this constant thing of biting my nails, of waiting to see, like, all right, who's going to create the change, who's just going to decide to put their foot on the ball and try to create something. It seemed like everyone was trying to create something.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a caveat you slid in there. Other than the goal we allowed.
Yeah, you gotta put that in there.
Yeah, it was really refreshing to see that. I don't know. For me, I wasn't too worried, even though we were a goal down for practically almost the entire game, because it just felt like we were eventually going to score because we had that dominance. We had that the fact that Akira, I think he only made like one real save in the entire game. I mean, the only two opportunities that they really had on goal, one of them was they scored and the other one he saved. And even that one, I mean, that was a routine save for Akira. And it just felt like eventually the ball's going to hit the back of the net. Eventually we're going to score because we just kept Fort Lauderdale on the back foot. We had them on the ropes for pretty much the entire game, apart from the moment when they scored.
Yeah, I think on the ropes, I think might be a step farther than I'm willing to go with it. Certainly had had the possession, and we're keeping it down there. But you look at the stats, lots of shots, but Calendar only had to make 2 saves, the entire game. So it's kind of, I mean, it felt like a reverse every other game that we ever watched, where our guys are giving them the low percentage chances, letting them take them, and they constantly miss the target, and Akira ends up with a 1 or 2 save sort of game as well. And we're like, okay, well, yeah, they had the ball, but what do they do with it?
Yeah.
And the man of the match, Akira usually gets his man of the match out there.
Yeah, well, this time he didn't get man of the match, did he?
No, he didn't. Sinead.
Okay, because he barely had to do anything. I know Akira was probably bored for most of the game.
So outside of the two lineup delays we had some interesting lineup changes. Yeah, of course, you had Chris Cole. He got to start for Monty. We did get a little update on Monty. Matt Myers. I'm gonna let you break the news if you would like to, sir.
Oh, okay. So this is not officially official, but as you may have realized, there's a long delay during the game. Monty was at the game, so chatted with him a little bit. According to the player himself, which that's always the big grain of salt that you take here. He seems to think he's doing pretty well, and thinks that he'll be able to come back this week. I don't know if that means Wednesday. I don't know if that means Saturday. I think players also always overestimate their own recovery, as well. So hopefully he's right. He'll be back on the field, shortly. But I thought Cole did a pretty decent job, filling in for him at left back.
Yeah, I think he did well. I think he did fine. I think he did really well push it up. If he's our backup, I feel fairly confident he's in the starting rotation. Um, yeah, I feel confident with him back there. He's done well. I think what this is his second start of the year so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done fine. Back there. So outside of Chris Cole, we also had the Shanair. I know you're about to be excited. We had Stanley get his first start of the year, and he almost had an assist in the first minute. Shanair, I want to ask you, what was your level of excitement when you Stanley started? Because I know this is your son.
Oh yeah, no, I was excited that not only was he starting, but he was actually being played in an attacking position. The few times that we have seen him come on this season so far, he's been playing in the midfield, and from the moment we signed him last year, from the highlights that we were able to catch of him prior to joining the Richmond Kickers, he is an attacking player. He's a player who needs to be a part of the attacking line. He can create, he can assist, he can finish, and that is basically his game. And it was kind of boggling to me that I understand last year there was the injury issues, him coming back from injury. He wasn't fully fit throughout the compressed COVID season that we had. But again, having him in the midfield always seemed a bit strange to me. Today, he seemed a lot more comfortable. And I mean, look, we almost had another Matt Bulldog moment of scoring within the first 2 minutes, and I was really happy to see him get that assist, or almost get that assist.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest shocker. I don't know what, because I don't think anyone else. I don't think anyone else in the front was hurt. I know Darren had to replace Zaka because he had his red card in the previous game. But if you would have told me Stanley would have started before, I would have been like, either Matt's hurt, Olex isn't starting, just August. Someone had to be hurt in order for Stanley to start because I was not expecting that. But he came on, he did well. He created, he asked questions of the defense. Do you guys think he'll start games in the future, or do you think this might have just been a one-off?
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I think he can start. Do I think he's going to be a regular starter? Probably not. but I think he can certainly be able to fill in during busy periods like we're running into right now. So I think Darren probably has a little bit of that foresight with making sure guys stay rotated, and because you're right, had to forced to make a change initially with Zaka, and you dropped Victor back a step, dropped Neil back step in there. Maddie kind of played a little bit further back than he had been before. So there were some adjustments, but I think he showed fairly well for himself. I don't think he ruled himself out from getting another extended run, whether as a starter or as a heavy minute sub.
Okay, yeah. Real quick, I just want to ask you guys about the Zakaro. Now on the broadcast, they were kind of saying that Victor was playing this Zakaro, and for those who don't know, the Zakaro is pretty much the deep line playing midfielder. I don't really feel like anyone was playing the Zakaro, and I think that might have been the lead up to the first goal. Because the vibe that I got from it was Emmy and Stanley were up top, and then behind them was kind of just like a 4-4-2. I might be wrong with that, but that's what it felt like to me. What you guys think?
Yeah, that is what it looked like. It looked like you had Bolaños on one side, Bulldog on the other, and Emmy and Stanley playing the two strikers, which left Neil and Victor as our two central midfielders. And I don't know. It seemed more diamond-like because you saw Vignal getting involved with Neil Vignal getting involved more with the attack than Victor Falk was. Victor was a little more of like the destroyer midfielder, was putting out fires in the midfield. So he wasn't exactly playing the Xhaka role, but I think he was the closest to that role on the field.
Yeah, I don't think he was out. I don't think he was told to go out there and be Xhaka. Yeah, I think that it doesn't make sense to try to tell one player to be another player, anyway, because they have different skill sets. Overall, I certainly think Victor was the most defensive minded of the four that you named out. And we saw him play in that general role last year and do well with it. So there's a little bit of a change of shape, change of philosophy. It looked like. At the same time, very confident that we're going to see Zaka come right back in the lineup on Wednesday.
Yeah, very confident. Now this is one thing that I thought about near the end of the game because I had to rewatch the game today because I missed it. But do you
Shameful,
guys?
shame.
Yeah, I'll take the shame for it. I was at a dinner party. Look, I had to be a good husband.
I was at a dinner party too. It was at City Stadium with about 1,800 of my friends.
I missed y'all, but look, I had to be there. We were out in Louisa County, which means zero cell phone service. Shinner, you know all about that. But I want to ask you guys this question. This is something I thought about at the end of the show. Would Zaka, and I don't know what it was because it seemed like the kickers were being a lot more, pushing forward a lot more in this game. Like they were creating a lot more chances. Not saying they were finishing chances by any stretch of the imagination, but the ball seemed to be playing a lot quicker. Do you think with Zaka in there, like the ball kind of slows up a little bit more and it kind of get like log jam? Or do you think this might have just been a result of Fort Lauderdale sitting back so much that the kickers just had the ball from the start?
I think we set the tone early with that very, very, very early chance. With that early chance, it kind of put Fort Lauderdale on their heels, which allowed us a little bit more space in the midfield. And especially after they scored the goal, I think Fort Lauderdale was in the mindset of just holding on for dear life. And because of that, again, the midfield is a little more open because they're sitting a little more back, a little further back. I think even if Xhaka was in, they probably would have been same story because, like I said, Fort Lauderdale, I think, were key in the pace of our game.
Yeah, and I think that's about right. I think you have to take in consideration, game state, opponent, all these things, and it's also one data point. It's hard to really say for sure that Zaka slows us down when for the most part. I don't think that's been the issue. I think it might have changed the way we attack because we saw a lot less of the kind of speculative balls, see if Bolaños or Bolduc or anyone else can chase them down. We still saw some of them, of course, especially when Olix comes in the game later on. But it was a lot more of kind of controlled possession, I thought.
Okay. Yeah, and that's very true. That's something that I saw a lot of. It just seemed as I don't know what it was, but it was like we've been saying. This was a weird game because it seems that the kickers was like really making a point of getting on the ball and making smart, simple passes. Because how many times have we seen games with kickers where a ball will be played to someone's feet and they either mishandle it or it's a mispass or someone overran a ball. And it didn't seem like that. Like it seemed like a
Or just
very
pass, kick it long.
yeah, like it seemed like a very poised game for them, and that's rare.
Yeah, I mean,
um,
Darren had been saying over the last little while that he felt the team was coming together, was really getting ready to ramp it up. Not gonna lie, as we were getting to halftime and still behind, not much happened. I was wondering where is this, but you could see a change again. I want to see that change one or two more times to be able to say that it's actually a pattern and not a one-off. But there's something to take away from that.
yeah, yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead. Let's talk about this first goal. Um, what are your thoughts on the first goal? I have my thoughts, but I'm gonna hold off until you guys get your thoughts in about this first goal.
So to me, that first goal reminded me, of a training exercise that I did a million times, from like U13 up through U19. I did not play at a high level, either. It looks like your standard, hey, we're gonna do a 3v2, 4v3 type, attacking versus defense, sort of situation. You know, space them wide, and then inevitably there's going to be an open man and not much pressure on the ball. What was Akira supposed to do? Wasn't great.
You're absolutely right, and I think this play literally started from the throw in, um, because when you look at it, Avant he leaves it. Okay, I don't want to necessarily blame Avant for it, but I think the two biggest people to look out for in this play is Avant and Victor. And literally, like, there's a huge, I guess you would call it, like, there's nowhere near close to Avant. And normally, when you're told on set pieces, I mean, or set throw-ins, is like mark a man, not space. Like, be close to somebody. And when Hamdar receives the ball, he kind of like plays a through ball into the space where Avant is, because Avant like steps up, and where Avant steps up to, Hamdar like plays a through ball to Teglahi. And so then from there, it's like, all right, now Avant's kind of like trying to get back, but I don't know if he's jogging or like in like a 3 and 4 sprint, but I can tell he's not running fast because either Hamdar is like super duper quick, and I don't think he is, but he blows past Avant. And when he receives the ball, like Avon's behind him, so Avon can't affect the play. He lays the ball off. So I think it's Curry. Yeah. And then where Victor is, so I had to rewind this play to look at it to see where Victor was. Victor already recognizes, like, oh snap, something's about to happen. Let me make a dead sprint. But he never checks his shoulder at any point to see where Curry is. And by the time he recognizes, like, oh, Curry's behind me, he's already committed to stopping Hondo. And every time I say Hondo's name, I think about Idris Elba and Thor, just with his last name. Oh, now I completely
All
laughed.
right, I did not see that being the reference you were going for, but okay.
I don't know why. Like I was like, oh no, all right, man. Okay, one more. But yeah, I think those are the two biggest culprits on that play, and I think I don't think it's necessarily. I think it's 100% a ball watching. Let me say that. But I also think it's the way how Richard was set up to apply pressure. Like they're applying pressure in spaces where it's like, because I saw there's a lot during the game where like if anyone received the ball, it was like automatically a kicker's play would get super duper close to them and force them to play the ball backwards. And on this play, it just so happened to break down. What you think, Shanair?
Well, I think there are sometimes you can press a little bit too hard. And I think that's what happened in this situation with those 1-2 passes that Fort Lauderdale were doing down that left side. It's because the Richmond Kickers players were pressing too close behind the players with their back to goal. So when the ball comes into a player with their back to goal, they just lay it off and go, lay it off and go, lay it off and go. And when you do that, when you're sitting too close, it's easy for someone to just lay the ball off, literally spin you, and leave you for dead as they're heading up the field after they've released that layoff pass. And I think that happens literally 2 times in a row off of that throw in, that leads to the goal. Like literally, it goes from that throw in, throws in, layoff, a long pass, layoff, another long pass, layoff, and then the ball is through. So by now, literally the kickers are literally up 1 or 2 steps behind the play as Fort Lauderdale is moving forward in this situation. So I think this was the game plan that Darren had going in. Put pressure on them. Don't let them turn. Force them to play with their back to our goal. But the part that wasn't applied after that was if they pass the ball, don't let them spin you. And that was happening way too often, and that's what led to that goal. That it literally blew our defense wide open.
Yeah, and I also made that note. I think maybe 3 or so minutes after that goal, it's like Richard had a bad habit of leaving runners wide open. It was almost like who has who. Like it was almost as if everyone was trying to figure out like, all right, who do I have? Who do I pick up? Because like the goal, like for instance, like if someone just simply checks for Curry, that goal doesn't happen. I think like right after that, I don't know if another shot happened. I'm trying to remember. I don't think so. But it was just like Fort Lauderdale have runners into the box and nobody picked them up until like the last minute. They cut out the chances, but it was kind of like was a that was a target point for like the next 3 or so minutes, and then Richmond got back in possession, kind of slowed the game down, and then picked things back up from there. Oh, another thing. I know we talk about it before a lot of the podcast, but is Avon taking set pieces from now on? Because he had another one.
Yeah,
I'd wait to bring that up.
Once I saw it happen.
So technically, he didn't take the set piece. You know, he ended up taking a shot off the set piece. Well, I don't know why. I don't know why you hated my guy. You know, I'm repping the number 4 on my fresh new red U-Crops jersey.
I'm not hating on him. I'm not.
Mm.
But let's be real.
I mean,
the only reason why that shot was closed is because it got deflected.
No, actually, it was on target until it got deflected. And it deflected off of who was it? Terzaghi, like it hit Terzaghi's like head or something and went out.
Terzaghi's always going to find a way how to score a goal, no matter what. He's going to take somebody's shot.
Yeah.
But no,
I can't wait for Yvonne to score the critical goal to like qualify for us for the playoffs or advance in the playoffs, and then Shanier and I are just going to come on here and just have the biggest roast Elliott session for days and days.
If Avon scores a free kick to get us into the playoffs,
what do you do?
I will get the number 4 tattooed on me. If he scores a goal to get us into the playoffs off of set piece, I will get the number 4 tattooed on me.
All right, timestamp that, y'all. 24 minutes into the podcast.
Look, he has to be taking like the actual set piece. Like he has to be like.
You're saying direct free kick, not like any. What if they like lay it off?
Yeah,
and
no,
he rifles it.
God, he's gonna do like upper 90 against Forward Madison from 25 yards out like Cristiano.
Oh, and it would be against forward. Oh, that would.
Yeah, and look, you can hear Elliot a little bit mad about it already right now. Yeah, so yeah, host of the podcast, mad about our players scoring against forward Madison.
That would be just my look, and I'll just be like,
the man who goes to dinner parties in Louisa County instead of coming to City Stadium. I see what's up.
We're getting warmed up with the roast. We're getting warmed up with the roast.
That might be the only day I'm just like, God damn, he had to choose today to do this. And I guarantee you, I'm always probably going to come over there and celebrate section O, just stand there like Jesus, like, and I'm gonna have to slow clap and just walk my ass to Lucky 13 to get the tattoo in the form.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Aren't you glad you brought this one up?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So back to the rest of this game. In the rest of this first half, it was a bunch of chances created. What I want to ask you guys this: what is it with the kickers? They create chances. It's just nobody is finishing them. Like, what is up with this?
Well, there's one guy who finishes them. That's
awesome.
There's one.
Yeah, that's the main issue. That's one thing I feel that the kickers have struggled with for a while. Finding a clinical fit, at more than just one clinical finisher. And right now we have Terzaghi, but he was MVP last year. He has a bullseye on his back. It's going to be very hard to get him chances, a lot harder to get him chances now that everyone knows Terzaghi was the MVP. Terzaghi is the guy to watch on this Richmond Kickers team. So where else can the goals come from? You look at some of these other great teams around the world. Let's look at, not right now, but a few years ago, Barcelona. It's like Messi's the guy, but Iniesta can score a goal, can destroy you as well. Xavi can destroy you as well. Suarez, Neymar, Pedro, David Villa, all of these players were clinical finishers as well. You look at Real Madrid, same thing. Cristiano Ronaldo's the guy, but Benzema, low-key one of the top scorers in the league. You even look in MLS back when Clint Dempsey was at New England Revolution. Taylor Tolman was the guy, but Clint Dempsey and Pat Noonan were definitely players that you had to watch out for because they could finish at the drop of a dime. We only have Terzaghi. And we have players that can create dangerous situations. We have Olex. We have Bolaños. We have Matt Bolduc. We have we have all these players that can create chances, that can make a team scared, but the clinical finishing is what we're lacking.
Yeah, I think areas where probably need a little bit more attacking support. I mean, obviously any other position will be nice to have that from. I think getting more from the midfield, in terms of actual production on the score sheet, would be a nice benefit because we have that one goal that Neil scored that let's be real, should have been saved. It went straight through the keeper's hands. I don't think anybody else has scored from midfield. I mean, we've gotten a couple from Monty. Jalen sorta had that one. We'll give it to him. Jalen Chrysler, by the way, team of the week. This week, big ups to him. You've got a couple from Bolaños, got a couple from Olex, off the wing. But if we can get something from that midfield support, I think that's might be the next step in being able to be a little bit more dynamic attack overall. You're muted, Elliot.
Great. I will say this. I think, I'll kind of push back on your point. I think, unlike last year, where the kickers were not winning unless Terzaghi scored. And I don't think anyone else was close to Terzaghi. Like, I think Terzaghi had Terzaghi had 10. I think the next closest person had 1 goal.
There's 2. Like Kraft had a couple. Bolaños had 2, but they were both in the same game.
Yeah.
I think there might have been somebody else with 2.
Yeah, but they were very like spaced out. Like normally this is argument showed up on the team sheet more than likely. This year, I kind of I feel as if there's other people in the game that can pose a threat. It just so happens to be like you said, Matt. Like it's not anymore for the midfield. It's usually the front three. But the scoring is a little bit more spaced out than what it was in the past because, like last year, I mean, this year, for instance, like you could attribute at least a win or two to Bolaños, a win or two to Oleg scoring a goal. Monty, definitely. Where last year it was just Terzaghi. If he wasn't scoring, it was either a draw or a loss.
Yeah. Except for that game in Omaha when who scored a winner?
But
number 4.
Box, right? He was in the box, right? Okay. My point.
Scored off a set piece.
He was in a box where he should be. Not out here thinking it's FIFA. Yo, I can't wait to COVID restrictions drop because I would love to have a free kick challenge because I'm on. I'll probably get murdered, but I won't.
Now, to be honest with you, I mean, if you look, for example, at it's fitting that I'm gonna use this example because he comes from the same country, David Luiz, as a center back. Anytime there's a set piece from wide, he's not taking it. He's in the box because he has that height. He has that ability to win balls in the air. But if it's a central set piece, David Luiz is going to want to take that free kick. And I think it's the same thing with Ivan. Like, if it's a situation where it's central, you don't really need tall bodies in the box if it's a free kick in the middle third of the field. You're not crossing it. You're aiming for a goal. So you gotta give Terzaghi the ability to try that. You know, he's gonna try that because he's not needed in the box.
Not Ivan. You're absolutely
Ivan. Sorry, I'm sorry, Ivan. I mean, you got to give that to Ivan because I mean he's not needed in the box. If he wants to give it a shot and he feels he got the confidence to take a free kick from the middle third of the field, so be it.
We'll come back to this. All right. So I think the round of the first half, I think pretty much our thoughts are probably all the same. Like the kickers did great at possessing the ball, holding on to the ball, cutting out danger chances for Fort Lauderdale, but finishing was an issue. And I think also like they asked a lot of Fort Lauderdale because it seemed like the only time that Fort Lauderdale was able to create a chance was off of like a counter or like a set piece that was happening to our box because of foul. Outside of that, it hasn't been like in games past where the kickers just get submerged deep into their box. Like, we can't get out. We're just tucked in. It didn't feel like that. Like, I didn't have that moment at all where I'm like, yo, 10 minutes have passed and we haven't been past the halfway line. So I think that's the positive you can take out of the first half.
Yeah, it was almost like the opposite. It was almost like 10 minutes have passed and they haven't been in our half.
Once again, very weird. So going into the second half, and this is something I heard the commentator talking about a lot about how Darren was saying like he wants to get his team mentally tougher. And he was comparing, the announcer was comparing how Fort Lauderdale is very, very young, but they have a lot of experience together. And Richmond is the complete opposite of that. Like they're very experienced, they don't have a lot of time together. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Like, do you guys agree with that statement, or do you think it's just, as we like to call it on here, coaches talk?
No, I think that's fairly accurate. We do have some returning players, but if he's talking about time together in less than they've been on the same squad together and more of they're not really creating that bond as teammates, then that's something that's worrying because that's how you
I think he was mentioning it as more of like Fort Lauderdale. They grew up in the youth system. They've been together for like long, like almost like how North Texas was. Like they've been together for long periods of time. Where Richmond, like you're saying, like it's you have so many returning guys, but you have fairly new guys like Nail, Chris Cole, people like that. Like you're still getting used to playing here. And it's just
Yeah,
you need to gel over time. Not like there's a riff in the locker room or anything like that. Like no,
no.
nothing like that.
But I think one thing we need to ask ourselves is how many players on this Richmond Kickers team came from the Richmond Kickers Youth Club? Not any. Not any that are playing regularly. And that is, I think, where one of Richmond's weaknesses is, because if you have at least a few players that grew up in the system, in the culture of the club, there is a direction that you can bring the club to. And that's what you saw with North Texas the first season we had League One, and they just like they literally stormed the league because these guys had been playing together since they were like 13, 8 to 13 years old. They were playing together, and that in the system of Dallas, and so that system coming up, they're going through this system together. They basically have it hardwired in them how to play. Same thing is happening with Fort Lauderdale right now. Richmond, not so much.
Hold on.
You're literally
Hold on.
grabbing players from different places, so you're not going to get you're not going to get any kind of system. You're not going to have a system. You're not going to have a way of playing.
So you're telling me that Fort Lauderdale, the whole Inter Miami system that started 2 years ago, is going to be this well-oiled machine. I'm looking through their lineup right now. Mabika, their huge, awesome center back. Where he came from? University of Kentucky. He didn't have any connection to them. Callender, I don't believe had any connection to them. Certainly, Neville's kid doesn't have any connection to them. Hundal came from Toronto. Not entirely, I can't remember other guys off the top of my head, but that's not a team that's played together for forever. They're a bunch of pieced together guys who happen to be younger. They might have higher ceilings than a lot of our guys do, but they don't. That North Texas team was I think they're going to go down as a freak level team because they've had multiple guys who've been sold for multi-millions already to Europe. Probably a couple more along the way to come with Pepe and some of the other guys. I don't think that's going to be the norm at all.
It's not going to be the norm, and I think that is something that we're just going to have to get used to in the United States. It's not something that's ever going to really happen. If you look at a lot of the clubs on almost all the levels, it's not something that's common that you find a grassroots.
I mean, look at almost any team anywhere though. How many guys really play for their the same senior team that they came up with? It's a big deal when like Chelsea this last year. Oh, Mason Mount came through, and Reece James came through.
Yeah, but
those are two names. How many guys are on a team?
I know, but if you look at some of the dynasties in the past couple of decades, Manchester United, Barcelona, their dynasties were based off of a core group of academy players. You look at
you're also talking about two teams out of the entire world.
No,
right? I don't think we can realistically expect that, especially in Richmond.
No, of course, I'm not expecting us to reach the heights, to do that. What I'm saying is, you when you have that kind of piecemeal situation, like you're naming, you named all those players from Fort Lauderdale. What do they have in common? They came through the American college system. We have players that came from Sweden, Argentina, Brazil. It's very hard, especially since I don't think there has been enough longevity ever since Lee Calishaw in order for the Richmond Kickers to have a system for these players to to become accustomed to.
Most of our
Right
guys,
now, there's it's basically we're starting from scratch right now in terms of a system because we have a new coach. It's his second year. We have players literally piecemealed from all over the place. It's not like you're taking a core group of players that understand each other and building from there.
I mean, I would make the argument that we have a core group of players who played under the same coach last year.
COVID year.
Still more than most teams, have year to year in lower league American soccer.
Yeah, I think we returned the. I think at the beginning of the year, I think we returned the most people back. But I mean, look, this is a good argument.
Yeah,
I mean, you can go either way on it. But
long term, I would love it if the team was heavily based around Richmond and Virginia guys as a whole, but not there right now. So you bring in the talent where you can.
Yeah, but, I mean, not necessarily having people that that are Virginia or Central Virginia bred, but just to give an example, my wife, who doesn't know a lot about soccer. I mean, she didn't really start watching soccer until she met me, and one thing that she started to realize was like, I don't recognize anybody on the Richmond Kickers team anymore. Like, it started getting to the point where it was like, you would go to the games and you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, Yambi. Oh yeah, Kalunji. Oh yeah, and it got to a point where it was like, who the heck are these guys? Like, I don't know these guys. I understand that that's coming from someone who's watching it much more lightly than, for example, you, the three of us.
Oh, yeah, we're weirdos, so we don't count.
Yeah, we're the soccer nerds.
Yeah. But I
we're
mean,
the soccer
I get that
nerds.
question there, but I also think like there's extraneous factors, and this is a different conversation that we can definitely have a whole show on.
Yeah,
maybe we should. Maybe we should do that. But I think the way how the team is set up, if you look over the course from 2017 to definitely now, there's been a lot of changes, but there are various factors why those changes happen. Players age out, you drop down, different things. But it's good that you did bring up that point because I didn't make sure I forgot it. Richmond did sign 2 players this week. Mm-hmm. Make sure I get his name right. Darmian Gallardos. He came from
Richmond. Gallegos.
Okay, there we go. There you go. That's we got you on the show, Matt. Correct me. And then Sam Solomon, another forward option. It's good to see. But one of those happened to be a homegrown player for Richmond United.
Yeah. Yeah, so Damien has been with I think he started with like the Kickers youth teams and then moved his way up to the Richmond United team. He's slated to be playing college ball at VCU in the fall, so this will be good way for him to get some experience, good way for the team to get some additional cover. Hopefully, maybe we can be able to get him into some time on the field. He was on the bench this week, so that's definitely a step. And then Solomon, he's a guy who's been with the team ever since preseason. He's been a training player, and they decided to move forward, bring him on as a full rostered player. So congrats to Sam.
Yeah, I saw the players were like really, really excited that Solomon got his contract. But it's also good to see that like there is some formulation of a pipeline up to the first team. Because for the longest, my bad. For the longest, it looked like, what's going on with the academy? Like, are we going to bring anyone up? Like, is anyone going to sign? And real quick, do you guys think he gets any games? Do you think he, gets a game here or there before he goes off to VCU in the fall?
If I had to bet,
in terms of like a 5-minute appearance, not like a start.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah, if I had to guess, get an appearance.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I think the safe bet is no. But I would love if it happened because that probably means that the team's comfortably in control of the game.
Yeah, it would probably be a game where we're looking comfortable, and you want to put him on there, give him minutes, and give him that feel that the familiarize him with the pace of the professional game. It's interesting seeing him come in, and it's interesting you talking about that pipeline. But I think we may have our trip to Lionsbridge a couple years ago to thank for that, because there were there were quite a few Richmond United players who were brought on to play in that game, and showcasing the talent from the Richmond United Academy uh, on a professional, on a semi-professional to professional level may have opened the doors for signings like Sam Sullivan.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see that the youth are coming through Richmond. I think that's going to be proud of stuff. So, yeah, positive to see. But let's get back to the game. We're probably might do a side podcast on that point Shanair brought up, because I think that's a really good point.
I mean,
Um,
it's kind of inappropriate that we took a long break from talking about the game, right?
yeah,
Exactly.
3 hour break. The 3 hour break that was happening.
Yeah, it wasn't 3 hours though. It wasn't 3 hours.
I mean, if you guys want to start filling 3 hours, I'm down. Let's go.
You're gonna need a lot of water and a lot of time. We gotta figure out what to talk about.
I don't think it was water that was getting drunk the most on that concourse during the break.
Yeah.
Probably not. What? It was funny. Is because in the Red Army Facebook group, I forgot who put it in there, but I saw that they still had the beer lines open to the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
oh yeah.
Night, I was like, oh, I know everyone was toe up. I know it was toe up.
I mean, where do you think everybody descended to when that 5 or 10 minutes of like really hard rain came down? Where else are you going to go that's covered?
Right.
That's
I
true.
See, like, chart of beer sales, because I'm pretty sure they skyrocketed during that 3 hour stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I got another one then. What else was I going to do?
Yeah, like you said, Matt, that was the only place people could find comfort without going back to their cars.
Yeah.
So in the second half, not a whole lot happened. It was kind of still mirrored the same thing as the second half. Richmond controlled the ball. Fort Lauderdale was comfortable sitting back. But I want to ask you guys this. Do you think Richmond had 2 penalties that were missing this game? Because I have it in my notes. I think I have one in the 58th minute and then another one in the 42nd minute. Do you think, I mean, look, this ref let a lot of stuff go. He was giving yellow cards here and there, but do you guys think Richmond had a case for 2 penalties in this game?
I those could have gone either way, to be honest with you, and I can't be too mad that they didn't go our way. But I do feel that you are right. The ref was letting a lot of things go. I think at one point, I can't remember if it was Terzaghi or Victor who actually got annoyed with the ref for talking to a player for too long, for talking to one of the Fort Lauderdale players for too long, which is, I mean, as a referee, you got to take control of the game the short way. And I don't know if it's a lack of experience, but this ref was missing a lot of things, and you don't need to sit there and have a 30-second long chat with a player about how many fouls he's committed and he needs to stop fouling. I mean, it should be literally 3 seconds. You say what you need to say, and we move on. And I think I think it was Terzaghi. He was getting annoyed with how long it was taking for this ref to talk to one of the Fort Lauderdale players after that Fort Lauderdale player had committed a foul.
Yeah, overall, I thought the refereeing was fine. Like, I don't personally don't mind refs who let them play as long as it's consistently letting them play. And I looked at the stats; he still whistled 30 fouls in the match, so it wasn't like it was literally just a bloodbath out there or anything. For the penalties, I guess my answer has to be no, because I don't have any recollection of the first half, potential penalty. So don't know about that one. The second one, it was right in front of us, right after the break, started up. It was one where I certainly thought it was foul. I wasn't stunned when it wasn't given. I was more surprised when the whistle was blown and then it was given as a Fort Lauderdale free kick. Coming out. And you could see that Emmy was equally stunned by that.
Well, I don't
decision as
think
well.
Emmy was. I don't think it was a foul on him. I think it's because he grabbed the ball, thinking that it was going to be called for him.
Okay.
So when he grabs the ball,
Don't
that's a
remember that part.
handball. Yeah, that was a handball. They called a handball on Emmy, but Emmy's like, this shouldn't be a handball because I stopped the play because I just got fouled. So
Gotcha. Okay.
And the one in the 42nd minute was like Emmy and Matt both got tackled in the box, and the ref was just like, get up. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, you sure? But all right, yeah. Outside of that, Victor, I swear, I think we talk about it every game with Victor, but he had a beautiful, like, diagonal pass. I forgot who got it on the end of it, but it was in the 68th minute. And Victor literally, I don't think he picked his head up. I think he just automatically know, like, I'm putting this ball into a space. Someone's gonna get on the end of it. And I don't know what it is, but I love Victor's passing range. I just want to just make a note of that because I feel like we always talk about it, but I love his passing range.
I mean, it's a great skill to have.
Like when he's allowed to like have space and pick his head up, I think Victor probably is the best passer. He might be one of the top 3 passes in the game when it comes to like them long, like directional passes. He might be one of the best in USL League. I'm confident in saying that. And in the 71st minute, the guy who I declare is the super sub of the Richmond Kickers outside of anyone in Chattanooga.
Sweet feet himself.
Yeah. He come on for Bolaños, but I mean, I feel confident with him being our super sub. Like he's like the Jamal Crawford for Richmond Kickers. I'm totally fine with
that. Okay.
Hey, look, be real with you. He's done more in what he's come off the bench, scored a goal against the Revs, 2 assists versus South Georgia, and an assist in this game than he's done in which he started. And I don't think he started that many games. But that's besides the point. I want to make my point correct. I think he's a great super sub, and I think Darren's doing a fantastic job managing Olex.
Yeah, he's one of those players who is I would say in terms of a comparison, he's a more efficient Denilson. I don't know if any of you remember Denilson from back in the day for Brazil.
We're going to some interesting callbacks this episode.
like what? Because when I think
Nelson, Jamal Crawford,
Idris Elba from Thor, not the Wire Idris Elba, not Luther Idris Elba, Thor Idris Elba.
Oh man, but yeah, no, like because I clearly remember, and especially when you looked at the 2002 World Cup Brazil squad, when any game where Brazil was up in the like 70th minute, they throw Danielson on and he just run down that left flank and do like 15 step overs, 15 scissors, and try and burn somebody and create nothing. But Olex is a more efficient version of that. He comes on and he's that flashy player that comes at a tired defense. So it's basically one of those players who, let's say you've been dealing with Bolaños the whole game. It's like, geez, this guy's fast. I'm having to chase him down this whole game. And it's like, oh, he's going off. All right. And you bring on Olex and they're like, oh, great, this guy. So it's really great that we have that type of player that can come on for either Bulldog or Bolaños, who can keep the defense honest and keep the opposing defense at a state where they're like, oh, crap, here we go again. So I'm loving it. And like you said, Elliot, kudos to Darren for keeping him as that super sub.
I remember getting roasted on the podcast because I asked the question, is he a great super sub? I was like, no. But he is. He's an amazing super sub.
Whoa.
Outside of anyone in Chattanooga.
Well, I don't think anybody said he wasn't a great super sub. I think the question was, is that his best role? And we were questioning, what could he give to us as a starter? I'll throw it out here. I think he's starting at least one of these next 2 games. Because think about the games he did start. Started the other Fort Lauderdale game where he was very active. Probably should have had, a goal. He started the Chattanooga game. He scored in that one. He might have started, 1 or 2 others as well. So it's not like he's performed poorly as a starter. He might have more of an impact as, a sub, but, I think you're misrepresenting the conversation, trying to get back at us for pointing out the flaws in some of your other arguments tonight.
Just saying, man. I think, I'm just saying. But while we're talking all this about Olex, he does definitely come on the field. He has an impact. 86 minutes. This goal is probably very simple because Neil, how can I put this? Neil has very good games where he's not. I mean, anyone has a good game where he's not being pressed, but Neil has very good games when he's allowed to operate in a space where he's not being asked to track back defensively like that. You get what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, if Neil's allowed to be on the front, not have to worry about, going back on defense, he can take over a game. And he took over this game in a lot of moments because he was making the right passes and he made the right pass, playing off the Olex. And me and Matt were talking about Shaneer. We thought about the one thing you can't do with Olex is allow him to get inside of you. Like if you keep Olex outside, him like down the line in a straight line, 9 times out of 10 he's gonna dribble out of bounds. But as soon as you allow Olex to cut inside, it's a wrap. Like you're not catching him, and that's what Roosevelt did. Like he allowed Olex to cut inside of him, and when Olex played this ball, there's literally 3 Fort Lauderdale players right there. Hernan is like low down blocking one, and Emmy just floats in between the 2 Fort Lauderdale guys and just taps it in. And the Fort Lauderdale goalkeeper, I'm gonna give him some crap on this because literally, like if he stands still, this is a save. And he just dives early. I mean, we'll take it. I'll take the goal, but this is the one shot on target that should not have been converted.
We deserve it.
Yeah. We did. 3 hours in the rain, it all happened.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I was actually like, to the listeners, I was vigorously nodding when you said you don't let Olex cut inside you, and I was thinking the same thing when it happened. When Neil sent that pass down to Olex, and Olex did that step over to let the ball go through, and then kept moving forward with the ball. The way Rosales came in trying to cut him off from the corner, in my head I was thinking, "Oh, please do that." Please do that. And Olex just cuts it inside him. And it's just one of those situations where it's like, dude, you don't let Olex cut inside. The moment you let Olex cut inside, like Bartok says, it can only end in tears. It's just bad for your team if you let Olex cut inside. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure about the angle on the broadcast, but it looks like Emmy may have stolen that goal from Hernan. Because Hernan actually had what's that center back's name? The Fort Lauderdale center back.
Oh, you talked about Miami Heat center that was playing for Fort Lauderdale today? I mean, yesterday?
Yeah, basically. That guy. I'm trying to remember his name. But yeah, Hernan basically had him behind him. He had him pinned. And that ball coming in, literally Hernan could have just swiped a foot at it to stroke it into the goal. But Terzaghi comes flying in. And Mabika. I think that was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He might have Stolen a goal from Hernan right there. Stolen Hernan's first goal for the Richmond Kickers.
It's all right. All part of God's plan. That the keeper, he was laughing. He was thinking, laugh now, cry later. He was in his feelings. I'm going to keep on throwing out the few Drake references I know because that was the dude's name in that. Yeah, I'm with it. I'm hip like this. I definitely didn't just Google Drake songs so I could try to find ones to drop in here.
If no one else listens to this show, this week you just gotta listen for the references show. These references are tough and hilarious.
Yeah, we got the references on lock today.
But yeah, after the goal, man, I want to ask you guys this. I know we probably went a little bit over top, but do you guys feel like, how do you guys think the last, give or take, 7 minutes for the Kickers went after the goal? Me personally, I think they got a little sloppy. I think they kind of relaxed a little bit too much because I didn't see them have the same bigger trying to get up the field, trying to get the second goal. Not saying they weren't trying to do it. It just feels like, they like the first goal. All right, now we got it. All right.
So I didn't get that at all. It looked in the stadium. It looked like they were eager. They wanted to push get the winner. I think it's more Fort Lauderdale realized, oh, well, maybe we need to actually play now. Maybe we're not just going to be able to sit back and try to steal all three. We need to actually do anything with the ball. So I think that was more of it than anything else. I don't think the intensity in the attack slowed down at all because you could see Emmy scores the goal. He rushes right in that net to get the ball and sprint on back to midfield. A draw was not what they were looking for.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. They were trying to get that second goal, but I think it was trying a little too hard, and they got a little frantic. I think is what happened. They scored that goal. Emmy goes, grabs the ball, runs back to the center circle, puts the ball in the middle on the spot, and they trying to go again so that we can press, try and win that ball, and see if we can get another one. In fact, shortly after that, that's when drawing a blank again, Christner actually has a little bit of a tussle with Calendar because the ball goes out of bounds, and I think it was for a corner, and Calendar holds the ball and throws it away, and Chrysler gets in his face about it, and there's actually a little bit of a little bit, I guess, words exchanged, and you could see Chrysler was upset about that situation. He felt that time wasting was eating into the time that the Richmond Kickers were trying to keep that momentum going, keep that forward press in order to try and get that winner. So I don't know. I think in those situations, I understand. Yeah, it's a draw. You want to get that win, but sometimes you do need to take a breath real quick and be like, all right, how can we put the second one in? Not just, okay, let's go for the second one. Let's go for the second one. Let's go for the second one. Then it's frantic. Then it's chaos. And the other team is sitting back. Fort Lauderdale sitting there with the arms up in front of the face there, and if you're just wildly flailing punches, you're not hitting anything. And I think that's what happened for the final 7-ish minutes.
So final thoughts on this game, how do y'all guys feel after this draw? Like, you guys feel positive about it? You guys think, see what the Kickers had to go through, having the game delayed, then having another 2.5 hour delay. How do you guys feel about the overall result for the Kickers?
I think they handled it well. They handled the delay well because a delay that long after playing about 45 minutes in the sweltering heat, it can really throw off your game. It can really disrupt how you play. And I think the Richmond Kickers handled it fairly well and were able to maintain their plan even after waiting a good 3 hours before starting up again.
Yeah, I'm mixed on this. Obviously, you come back, you're able to rescue a point from a losing position. That's never a bad thing. And I'll be real, during that long break, I wouldn't have been crushed if the game got abandoned and had to get replayed at a later date. Because while we had possession, there weren't a ton of dangerous chances. So there was a part of me that's like, let's just run this back some other time and take another shot at it, and maybe we don't have that breakdown in the first 6 minutes of the game. So mixed bag there. Big picture, you didn't really lose any ground anywhere because everybody else is drawing. Other than Tormenta somehow coming back and beating Greenville, that was weird. But they've played so many games that doesn't necessarily bother me. That more just pulls Greenville back to the pack a little bit more. But at the same time, we got to start beating some of these teams that we're directly up against in the table. Because there's a lot of season left, but it's also going by pretty quick. By the time the next recording, half the season's going to be over. So can't let opportunities keep slipping on by. And I mean, at North Carolina, at Tormenta this upcoming week, at least one of those needs to be a win, and I think probably at least need 4 points out of those.
Yeah, definitely.
Me and Matt are going down to the game on Wednesday, so that should be fun. Yay! Road trip podcast. I haven't done one of those in a long time. And then Matt will be down in the game on Saturday.
Yeah. So if any of you are randomly there as well, I'll have my red Ivan Magales number 4 kickers jersey. Feel free to come say hello because I love our players.
I love our players need to be in the right positions.
But yeah, definitely. Anybody's in North Carolina or South Georgia, come by, say hello. Road trips are fun. Always good to be able to connect with other kickers fans in the I guess in this case not so hostile confines. But yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah. Oh, and real quick before we wrap up, we got the new points per game standings because, like you said, we're still a couple of games behind. But tied for first is Omaha and Chattanooga. Third is Greenville. Madison's fourth. Toronto FC2 is fifth. We're tied with FC Tucson for sixth, who we play at the end of the month. So that's a big game. North Texas is at 8th, Revs at 9, Fort Lauderdale's 10, Tormenta's 11th, and then North Carolina rounds out at 0.54.
Yeah, that's how weird the standings are because Tormenta's in 4th in the points table, and they're, would you say, 10th or 11th?
They're 11th, yeah.
Yeah, so strange stuff.
Games are huge. I think we're unbeaten in our last. I think the stat says 6 games at home. Like we were looking at today, like definitely home record is a lot better than our away record. And like we were saying, Matt, before we got on, like if Richmond manages to get 4 points or 6 points, trust me, we want 6 out of these next 2 games, we're potentially in 3rd spot in a home playoff game. And I think like that would be a key for Richmond because on the road, we only have 1 win, 1 draw, and 3 losses. So I think if we can avoid being on the road during the playoffs, I think that'd be great.
Agree.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Well, anything else, you guys, before we wrap up?
I mean,
go USA.
Go Jamaica.
No, they beat Matt Bulldog's time, man. They beat Matt Bulldog's time. 21 seconds, man.
blame Canada.
Yep.
That's what happens when you call ham Canadian bacon. All right, y'all. But as always, we want to say thank you guys for taking the time of your day, listen to our show. If you want to support us, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram and on YouTube at Rivercity93. Literally spelled the same way. If you got any suggestions for shows or people you would like for us to interview, hit us up. Let us know. This show is for the fans, so that's what we do. By the way, I want to give a big shout out to Matt. He did an amazing show last weekend with two legends of Richmond Kickers folklore. So make sure to go support that podcast. It is episode 93, I believe.
Hey,
But he sat down. So yeah, hey, you know, definitely go support that podcast. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to Shanair. My man just got a new coaching gig at Crystal Ray, right? Shanair?
Yes.
Yeah, my man is now the. I'm gonna just call it the head soccer coach. He pretty much runs the whole soccer program over there. So shout out to Shanair. You know, we're always looking for positive growth in this Richmond community, my man. So shouts out to you.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean, coaching has always been fun for me ever since I started coaching a few years ago. It's been a fun thing for me to do. So
yeah, and Elliot, you're okay.
I just hosted. But as always, listeners, we'll holler at you guys later. See you guys on the next episode.